strengths are, and then focusing on those things, and like really thinking about like like rallying up our like current network and like people who we worked in the past, and then see how like what collaborations can be made in terms of the new strategy or what we want to do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So that in that sense, it's been interesting.
Cool. Cool. When you guys talk about your strengths, how do you guys talk about them or describe them?
So in terms of in terms of strengths, we think about like what the organization itself is like what do what like because a lot of like the current organization, the current team, I would say, is very new, and a lot of a lot like almost all of them now were not the founding team, and hence we were really struggling to really feel what the organization when it started, what was the point of it and
Mm.
what it had become. So it was interesting to see like what the old like founding teams like had the vision for it, and what we have the vision for it. So that way it was also a good reconnecting theme, like if it still remained what it was meant to be, or now is it changing, and like what spheres do we know
Right.
went into. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
Hmm.
makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, cool. Welcome, Olivia.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Just catching up with Serena a little bit. So what I was going to do is just kind of allow everybody a little bit of space to talk about, what some of the issues or opportunities, challenges, asks are. So maybe Zareen, if I come back to you for now.
Yep.
Uh, as you look ahead on financial sustainability, maybe talk a little bit through um, some of the goals and some of the opportunities and challenges that you have, and how we can help.
Yeah, so in terms of opportunities and challenges, like I mentioned, like we were in the past after when we came back from like our trip in New Zealand, and like like this whole capacity building a week with Akina, where the and this entire period it has been like we've been thinking a lot. We mostly have been thinking about, okay, what do we want to do next, and what kind of work do we want to work next, and what sort of uh, organizations do we want to be connected with, and like it's also we've kind of narrowed it down, like we think like we and keeping in mind the regenerative lens that we have in mind. So we have shortlisted so far 2 3 organizations, and we're in the process of co-writing proposals for it. One of them is on waste, like mapping a waste management system, and to see like what's currently happening within like for example in Karachi, which is the largest city in Pakistan, and like what solutions can then be made. So and there's certain organizations who are already working on waste management, and we've kind of had a meeting with almost all of them and trying to figure out what kind of struggles they have as well. So for example, they're just starting out, so they some of them have been there for like been there for like 5 6 years, but still haven't been able to be like very successful because they don't have a successful commercial model, like they're not commercially viable. So we're thinking of how we can help them out with like a monitoring and evaluation consultancy, like doing their audit and then see what, or helping them out with their business model, and reaching out organizations or like co-creating proposals that can help them with their capacity building. So that's one of the things that we run. We have also kind of this is something like on an advocacy front that we're involved with the climate action committee in Lahore and organizing climate march that on 20th September, and doing their marketing and comms. So these guys, now that we had identified that we want to get into the space, it was easier to then pinpoint organizations and just being starting out voluntarily, and then whenever opportunities arrive, to just give specific services that they needed from us, just to be be involved within the work, so that we can also build our portfolio, because currently we're also new to this topic and this subject, so we're not necessarily experts as yet. Our expertise still lie within building a curriculum and training, so trying to do that as well, with just being involved and being to give any sort of help that is needed, or filling in the blanks that are currently in the ecosystem, because it's still like a lot of people have just started talking about it, and surprisingly when we didn't we like there are a lot of people who work and they just don't have the visibility as yet. So we're currently also working on how we can create that visibility with current and creating partnerships. So it's been an interesting journey so far. But in terms of in terms of financial sustainability, we would like we wouldn't say that we're in a safe space though, because it a lot of because a lot of organizations are struggling around here, and it's still and in terms of funding, the good thing is that people have started showing interest now. So there is also some funding availabilities and funding opportunities. But in terms of, if we say that or that this safe space, and we feel that we're very comfortable with the financial sustainability part, I wouldn't say that. That is still a problem. So for that, we have what we're trying to do is we have started doing these little business clinics at our office, and we get a lot of requests of people just getting some help on getting help with team building. So what we've done is that we've started identifying what sort of the things that are needed within early stage entrepreneurs, and who come even within our alumni networks, and just do business clinics. And then we kind of have, when they can come in for a first session for free, but if they need specific help, then we offer them small packages. So that is something that we've started very recently, and we've gotten 2-3 things. I mean, obviously these are early stage enterprises, so they don't offer much, but people do need that help, so they do reach out, and they are interested in getting that sources as well. So that kind of helps us assess our own business model, and how can we make use of what we have, and then do kind of cover some operational costs, but they don't really manage big projects that we want to do. So that for that we still depend on collaborating partners, or others, or supporting partners that can help us with long-term project and long-term planning for the organization. So yeah.
Sorry, I was on mute there for a minute.
Yeah.
So the question that I have for you is the business clinic work that you're doing. Are you currently doing that for free, or are they paying you to do that business clinic work?
So we did one or two for free, and then there are people who want specific support. So for example, this one organization wants us to just do an audit for their website. So we have a design team. So our design team would then be involved with that organization, and then we will charge them for it, for their website audit. But because like I said, like because they're also some of them have some sort of a business model, and but most of the people who reach out to us are still starting out and they're still figuring out, so we can't all of these people hello.
Hey, I'm still here. Go ahead.
Yeah. So they're not able to give us much. So we kind of do okay, you come in to our office for 2 days, and then we just charge them for those 2 days. So it's not something that is that we've also just started out, but it's also not something that we can depend on. It's like a side thing that also keeps us busy as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So a couple of comments that I have, and I noticed that Liv has joined us as well, and so Liv might have a few comments as well. But the benefit of doing the business clinics is that you're doing some of that is paid, and as a part of that process, you are in effect doing customer discovery. Like, you're learning about what the marketplace needs and what they want, and ultimately your goal is to say, hey, first, it is contributing to your finances, which is good. And in addition to that, you're looking for opportunities for repeatability and scale. And so, so the more that you and the team can find the patterns in what people are looking for in those business clinics, the more that there's an opportunity for you guys to then conceive of a program that can support kind of the larger community as a whole. And then the second thing is, as you see those patterns, you get to socialize those patterns with funders and see if people are willing to therefore support some of the programmatic activity that could come out of that what is currently individual business clinics, but really it's a form of paid customer discovery, where you get to find out what people's big issues are, how you guys can help, where you can add value, and what people are willing to pay for. So I, personally, I think it's great. I think just work actively with the team on a regular basis, where you guys talk about the patterns within that business clinic work. Is everybody asking you guys for design and web work, or is it more about leadership and team development? You were talking about team development earlier, which, those are things that can really capture people's attention, and donors often love the, that capacity building piece. And so if you're seeing that pattern in leadership development and team development, then sometimes that's something that can ignite the interest of a donor or a funder or a sponsor. So those are kind of my observations. And then Liv, if you, I don't know if you're in a spot where you can talk, because I know you're driving, but go ahead if you can.
Yeah, I can talk. Yeah, I can talk. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear.
Good. Sorry that I'm driving. Hi, Zareen, and I also noticed Olivia's on the call. Hi, Olivia. Hi, Key. Zareen, I think based on the bits that I was hearing, so Keith's talked about patterns and then talked about capturing value for funders and donors. If I make an observation on the other side, what we are currently trying to do at the Difference Incubator is work out, the top 5 or 10 things that even early startup business need, and then we're trying to work out what's the cheapest way we can deliver it to people who are really just getting started, and really trying to push the envelope on how do we, one time when you're delivering a business clinic and it's being funded by a donor, maybe you can video it, and then someone, even as a startup, they can pay for half an hour of someone's time or an hour of someone's time to sort of engage with a few questions or a few skills once they've watched the video for free. And so even though a lot of people are early stage and they don't have a lot of money, I think just really trying to work out what can people pay for, partly because you need the revenue, but also I just find all the time, even when we charge a small amount, people engage with it better than when it's free. And even though there's the cost of their time and their energy, I'm a real fan of charging something. Yeah. So that's probably the only insight I've got at the moment. I did sort of arrived when you were halfway through, but just really, and these people who are startups, they will be paying for some stuff, and sometimes it's a bit disheartening when you find out that they've paid for other things, and certainly they would value what you're doing. So just keep exploring what's really possible there.
Yeah, thanks, Liv and Keith. That's a real, like I said, we're just starting, so we'll definitely keep in mind the patterns and see what can be extracted from it.
Yeah.
I muted myself again. I think that that's a great step, and what I would encourage you to do over the next few months, Serene, is I would encourage you to share with us your like share a monthly update. And what I would encourage you to do is with this group, share a monthly update where you tell us, you know, what you guys have been working on, what patterns you're seeing, and what questions are coming up. You know, if you can't see a pattern, just share the information, and maybe, you know, there's an opportunity for one of us to kind of share some insights and feedback as well. And then my last recommendation would be to, as you said, you don't feel confident that you're in a safe space yet when it comes to financial sustainability. So my encouragement to you is create, if you don't have it already, have a forecast for the next 12 months where you look at the expenses and you look at kind of the revenue that you're expecting to generate and the income you're expecting to generate, and try and identify where that discomfort is coming from. Is it generally you just feeling there's just not enough revenue and income coming in for the company? Or when you build that forecast, do you see something specific, and an ask can come out of that, right? Like an ask for help. So I don't know if you guys have done that yet or not, but that would be something I would be keen to see.
Yeah, we kind of did forecasting, and we like while we were doing while we were like re-strategizing, we were also thinking about like what skills do we need on the team as well. So right now we're really small. We've shrunk from like 5 to 3.
Okay.
So we also have to think about like, you know, what's the missing skills, that like we thought about what's the missing skills, and like we're currently now like kind of identified a JD for it and like advertising for it as well.
Cool.
So we have kind of done that. So that we need people like with complementing skills, and so that like, you know, we don't need people to like just come and like repeat what other person is doing as well. And like because we don't intend to be like I mean, depends on like if we get like a very like a long project stuff, but then still like, we felt that, you know, you could do a lot of stuff and be a tighter team and have like one one role for one person, and then they can take the lead to it. So like it doesn't have to be like a hierarchical model. Like, you know, one person can be lead on the team, like be lead on the research and strategy thing. One person can be the design lead, and one person can just go out and like, you know, be the person who be the focal point for the organization, so that they can be out and about and just be talking about the organization, so that there's visibility, and then there's constant flow of uh, projects coming in as well. And then one person can just be who has that financial background as well, plus also with some content writing skills, so that like, you know, because we do need someone who can constantly just like can just constantly write proposals and learn when do the writing part of it. And sometimes it's like harder for people to do both. And like, you know, so you feel that when if you're out and about, you need more time to just come and reflect, and then like, so it kind of, in given the time frame, we would want someone that like, you know, can just be in that be in that zone to just write. So we've kind of identified those roles in the team as well.
Okay. And which role are you hiring for right now?
So we're hiring for the content person right now, the writing person with some finance background. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Is there any specific asks for this group or things that we can help with?
Yeah, so we would, like I said, like, one of the things that we have in we are currently working on and collaborating for is waste management. Like, we're mapping a waste management for Karachi. So if we can, like, if you guys have examples of like what others are doing, we would love to see, like, study those examples and see how we can incorporate them in our proposal. That'd be wonderful.
Cool. That is a great topic. My suggestion, Zareen, is to put that into the Ask Offer channel in Slack to get some reaction from the other groups within here. And then I will put out word in my community, which probably spans another 30 odd incubators and accelerators. And I'll see what I can find. Some examples and some best practices. Chances are there's somebody in our network who's done some work on that. And there's a couple that I'm thinking about. I just need to reach out and find them.
That'll be great. Thanks. So when we had our cohort call, I did have that ask, but I haven't written it down on the Slack channel. I should actually.
Yeah, one of the benefits of putting it in the Slack channel is all of the partner organizations like myself and Liv, anybody who was not on that call, the cohort call, will also hear it. And the benefit is that maybe somebody like TDI or I2I or, other people either have done it or know someone. So just get that expanded out, and then I'll put the ask out. Do me a favor, Zareen, send me, and actually send it in this group, like just a quick description. And when you send it in Slack, what I can do is I can grab it and then I can put it out to my network. So for all of you guys on this call, just as an aside, there is a LinkedIn group, which is an Incubator Accelerator LinkedIn group. I'll send you guys the link to that because that would also be a good place to post some asks like this, just to expand the network a little bit. So cool. That's great. Thanks, Zareen. Olivia, I'd love to throw it over to you and see how things are going in your world. Oh, I might need you to unmute.
Yeah.
Like me.
That would have been funny to see how long that went on for. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so financial sustainability. I think, yeah, we've got probably about 6 months cash flow, which is becoming to make me nervous. And it's kind of grant season in Cambodia right now.
Yep.
Like, everything is happening now. So I've probably spent the last month literally full time working on grant proposals, which is, yeah, complicated with lots of other responsibilities I have to do, but it's really like now's the time to do that. So so that's been interesting. I guess probably in the next month I'll know how those all turn out. But something that I guess is definitely on my mind for this call in particular is we've got a new program that we've actually been applying for a lot of different funds for, grant funding for. But actually it's a 3-day program. It brings a lot of, we think it's going to be quite valuable to young people, probably test that first, but I think it's going to be really good. Right. And we're kind of like, why wouldn't we charge for this? With the longer incubation programs, it is just more, more complicated to charge. I definitely agree with you, Liv, that like, any charge is better than nothing, but for whatever reason, we haven't really been doing that up until now. And I guess now I'm kind of like, we should find our way back to that. We've got a strong enough brand. People really like us, people really want to join our programs. And maybe a shorter program could actually have a lot more like efficient sustainability, let's say, than the longer programs. I think that always need help, but the shorter programs, I need to do the maths basically. I haven't actually done that yet, but that's kind of one of my tasks on my list for financial sustainability, is to kind of look at some of the lighter stuff things we do and whether or not those could be turned into, things that have a cost attached to them, and how sustainable can they actually be, and can they be fully sustainable? So I think that would be really great for us right now. But yeah, I guess the main challenge that we have, which I'm sure everyone else has as well, is just covering the human resource that goes into designing and delivering a program can be quite difficult if you're in a developing place where everything's free all the time, or very cheap or subsidized. So is it possible to cover all the costs? I really hope so, but I'm not getting my hopes up too much because I don't think that would work.
Yeah. Olivia here. If I can just make a bit of a comment there, because I know I don't work in the developing context, but I also wonder if you can get 70% of your costs covered, if you can get to something like that, I wonder then if you can re-engineer what you're doing to be 70% less. We often have in mind, what we think needs to be in the accelerator and the workshops that we do. And we've just had a client that was really interesting, that they only had about half the money of some other clients we've worked with. And we just turned it on its head and said, if that's all you've got, how much can we deliver for that price? And let's really understand exactly what you need. And so it may well be that you can get 50 or 70% of the way there, and then you actually sometimes have to offer something which has to be cost recovery. And so working out, yep, it's only going to be half as many hours. We're going to cover 60% of the content in other times. And let's just see what kind of success those businesses have, how good they are at filling in some gaps themselves. What's the real minimum viable product to get somebody on their way? And then is that something that actually can wash its face, as it were?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Really good point. So this program is actually even pre-business. This is like for young people who are very much like exploring whether or not they want to be an entrepreneur. It's quite early stages, but yeah, I think that's a really good point about minimal viable products and just making sure that you can make it as lean as possible.
Yeah, okay. So that's a really interesting puzzle. That'd be a fun one to try and solve. Just so it's young people, it's inspiration, it's early stage, and it has to cost not very much. Yeah, that's a good puzzle to have.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing that I would encourage on this, so first, Olivia, not sure if you have a good like kind of project budget that you can work with. And the reason I ask that question and say it is because, if you can run every program, including these smaller, kind of ideation, intro to entrepreneurship programs, if you can run it through a project budget. The other key piece is that it's really an opportunity for you to work with the team where you can say, this is what we think. If you want to run a program a certain way, this is what it would cost. And, and then you can kind of look at the funding that you have and say, here's the funding that we have. And if you want to run it the way you want, then this is what it would cost. So either like something's got to give, like either we go find some more funding or we make it a little bit more, minimum viable product, lean and mean as a program. And so, but I do think that there's an opportunity for you to get, use a project costing template as a vehicle to kind of show people where the money is coming from and where it's going, and help them also problem solve around that. Because if you go to the team and they're like, well, the program's got to be this way, and you're like, yeah, but we're losing money every time we do it. And therefore I can't pay for professional development and I can't pay for, and and then people are like, oh, okay, well, in that case, then sometimes they'll get a little bit more creative. The other key piece too is then it's amazing. You start to do that and the team is like, well, why don't we charge for it? Suddenly then, the team starts to rally around that piece. So I think I would encourage that. So do you have a decent project costing template for a program? And it's okay if you don't, I'm just asking the question.
In terms of just calculating the costs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it a lot recently with the grants. So I feel like I've got,
I bet you have.
I feel like I've got into the groove of costing things. That said, I think we're a little way off, not ages off, but a little way off really knowing accurately how long something takes. At the moment, it is still somewhat of an estimation, but we're doing things like tracking project hours and stuff like that now. So in order to sort of be better at budgeting and working out the cost of things. So I think, yeah, should be okay. I should be able to do it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the one thing you can do is you can actually throw that out as an ask into the group, is just to see what other people are using as a project costing template. Just sometimes it's just good to see what people are thinking, and maybe there's line items that kind of has slipped your mind, or that is a better way to represent it. So don't be shy to ask for that. We have in our template, we're very explicit about the different options for where revenue can come from. So we actually, in our budget for a project, we'll list all the potential sources of funding, and some of them are zero because we haven't secured funding yet. But it's really an opportunity for the team to think about where funding can come from, whether it's user fees or sponsors or donors or whatever. And then on the expenses, we're very explicit about what is covering overhead, what is actually what is the percentage profit margin that we're pursuing for a program, so that people aren't just thinking well, here's raw revenue and raw cost and then I'm done. So we just make sure that people are really being thoughtful about the overheads and making sure that individual projects are contributing back into the organization. So that's the way that we do it at Spring anyways. So yeah. Cool that you guys are able to track hours. That can be a little bit of a tricky thing in the incubator accelerator world. So if you've got your team,
really just started, so it remains to be seen how accurate it is.
yeah, it's a little bit of an Albert Einstein thing for sure. Everything's relative. So yeah, for sure. When you do bigger projects with bigger budgets, then you tend to have better infrastructure to support things like our day tracking, etc. So that's cool.
Olivia, I'm sorry to cut across the Keith. I'm just add in on that we find accurately assessing costs is the hardest thing to do. And what you want to do is make sure you have a really good spreadsheet or record of it somewhere. And even if you just have a discipline where when you're busy delivering on a project, once a week, you just stop with someone else, you open up that spreadsheet and just together go, how accurate do you reckon it is? What have we forgotten? Oh yeah, we paid for that and we paid for this and we paid for that. And you normally find 2 cycles through whatever it is you're delivering, or 2 financial years even, before you're probably at 90 to 95% of your routine costs. It's just you forget things, you underestimate things, you misremember things. So we keep spreadsheets that we hang on to, and we reopen them and we look at them, and we get someone else to have a look at it and who thinks about it differently. I underestimate time fiendishly, so I tend to add 20% to mine, and other people come in and kind of go, yeah, you've way underestimated there, Liv. So you need other eyes on it. And when you're doing it for the first time, I just add 20%. I just assume in terms of time and costs and resources, you're out by 20% until you've had a number of eyes go over it and you've had a number of passes at it.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to quickly jump on that, Liv. We use the exact same percentage at Spring. When we come up with an hour estimate, the first thing we do is we gross it up by 20%. And things always just end up taking longer. There's quirks or curveballs or something that gets in the way.
It's really important that we tell you that, guys, because that's your surplus gone. That's just about any business's surplus gone if their costs are out by 20%. So, you know, in part, you just might not be able to make ends meet until you actually start adding in that 20% on your cost side and being aware of how much it actually does cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing that's interesting in the world that we all play in is that, and this is not for everyone, so it is a generalization, but most donors and funders that we all work with tend to support fair exchange of value, right? So if you have a cost estimate that says, here's the number of hours that we think that this is going to take to develop the program, to design it, to build the curriculum, to deliver it, to support the entrepreneurs well, and that ends up being a 20 or 25% higher budget than what you had originally anticipated, it's really good to put that number in front of a donor, because generally speaking, they value that quality delivery. The important part for all of us, whether it's Zareen who's working on a business clinic with an individual organization, or, you know, Olivia, you working on a program with a donor with multiple entrepreneurs, the reality is so long as you deliver great value, you show the impact that you're having on those entrepreneurs, donors will continue to support fair exchange of value. So some of this process, so, you know, Liv was honest in saying she tends to underestimate time. In my case, I actually tend to underestimate budget, like the actual hourly rates that we're going to charge. And so, so it's really important to note that we have to believe that people are willing to pay us fair exchange of value when we submit proposals. And so I would encourage you to kind of explore what that means in your particular budget. Just as an aside, at Spring, we have run 17 cohorts of Incubator now. And I will tell you, after 17 cohorts, somebody can call me on the phone and ask me what I would charge to run an incubator for them. And I get it within probably 1%. Like, I know exactly what it costs to run an incubator, but it took 17 cohorts for us to know, right? So, but, you know, to Liv's point, that inspiration is there. You start measuring it and you start looking at that cost, and you'll know pretty quickly what it takes to do it. So, yeah. So personally, as an action item, I'd love to see what your project costing template looks like. Love to give you some feedback on it. And then I think there is another piece that I'd love to see, Olivia, and that is, you talked about 6 months of runway. Not uncommon in our world as incubators and accelerators, but what I'd love to see is what are the top 3 things that you're going to do to stretch that runway. And so in those top 3 things, I wouldn't be surprised if 1 or 2 of them are, you know, proposals that you have written where you like, I have a really high probability to close these because we have great relationships and we've worked with them before, all the reasons why they would close. But then tell me what else you guys are thinking about doing to make sure that 6 months becomes 9, becomes 12. We live in a program world, and it takes a bit of time before we can get to a place where we really have clear visibility on 12 or 15 months worth of runway. So, and Liv, you guys do project-based work as well. I'd be curious if you guys have a horizon that you work with.
I'd love to tell you where we find comfort. So we have our aim is cash in the bank for 3 months of operations plus 15% extra, just for some R&D and play money. And so we don't even have a 6 months runway, but then what we look at, the next indicator we look at is pipeline. So what we need to be able to do is look and say that the next month of delivery work is everyone's on their utilisation target. The month after that is 80% of it's locked in already. And the month after that, hopefully, is around 60%. So we've got 3 months in the bank if things go wrong. We've got the next 3 months of work that we can see really clearly. And then at the 4, 5, 6 month mark out, we've got a bit of work scattered through it and some big clients that stay with us over the years, but not that many. And then we are looking then we go to our pipeline of leads. How many leads have we got? What is our gut feel likelihood that it's going to translate into dollars and when? And how much money is sitting there in the leads pipeline? And as a rough kind of estimate, we often look there, and there's usually in our pipeline, which is people's wish lists as well as work that will actually translate, there's usually our entire year's revenue at any one time sitting there in the leads, and about 30% of it comes off. So our security is found in a whole range of measures. We employ 10 people. We have an annual budget. That budget is broken down into a whole lot of budget areas that we need to achieve. So it's a range of customers. It's a range of forms of revenue. And then we have to keep a certain amount of cash in the bank. We have to keep the pipeline at a certain level, and certainly the locked in work for the next 3 months. And it's in a mix of all of those measures that we find our financial security, not just in saying I keep building out, how much runway I've got. That's nice too, but it doesn't have to be cash in the bank for you still to be pretty confident that you'll still be operating and growing in 5 years' time. In a sense, my runway is shorter than yours. My guaranteed runway, I can guarantee my current operations for 3 months. And if I didn't have the guaranteed contracted work for those 3 months and have met all of those indicators I talked about, or I didn't have a robust pipeline of interest, then we would start to pretty quickly talk about, do we have to reduce people's hours, or the first thing we do is, we've just got to get out there and sell. And you've actually just got to look at each other in the eye and say, okay, which 10 conversations am I having in the next week? And you say it out loud, you hold each other accountable, and you just go out there and you just have conversation after conversation after conversation until it translates into business.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. That's kind of my main focus right now. So it's good to get your tips and stuff. But yeah, I'm going to be having lots of conversations with people and trying to make leads turn into things. But yeah, I don't know. I'm scared too.
And Olivia, do you know what success looks like? Because we often feel that every conversation has to lead to some dollars. And I just wonder what's an appropriate conversion rate that is still about excellence, so what's an excellent conversion rate in Cambodia? So I'd say, do you have to have 50 conversations to win 5 bits of business? Do you have to have 20? Do you have to have 100? And then you actually, it drives you towards certain people, because if you have to have 20 or 30, then the 5 bits of business that you need to win all have to be big. So you have to actually make sure that as many conversations as possible are with the bigger players. And even if it takes you longer to get in front of them, you're actually going to earn more money from that conversation. But then if you've got to have 50 conversations, you don't panic. But you do say, I've got to have 10 a week for 5 weeks, and that is what I have to do, and I have to clear the books to do it, otherwise we're out of business. And then that's the minimum. That's not the maximum, that's the minimum that I
Mhm.
can reasonably expect to get some success. If over 10 weeks I have 50 significant business development conversations. And then you're sort of, then it's realistic and you're not getting disillusioned after 10.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that environment is, but if you've got some buddies in the ecosystem over there, like the people over at She and other people who operate in Cambodia, that would be a really good thing to get a gut check on, and then set a goal like that and don't panic till you're at conversation 40.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. All really good points. I'll see Celia on Friday so I can speak to her about it then. Awesome.
Muted again. Yeah, I think the other thing that we do, just as an aside, is we are very diligent about tracking overall funnel of opportunities. And for the funnel of opportunities, what we're looking for is we have a total number, and then we multiply that by a probability to close, and then we look at that probability adjusted funnel. And so, we're just looking to make sure that number looks reasonable. And so you want to get a feel for it. Now, in my context, I'm looking for a probability funnel that probably is in the neighborhood of anywhere from, say, 40 to 60% of my annual revenue target is what I want as a probability adjusted number. So, say you just submitted a proposal, I don't know, hypothetically to UNICEF, and you think you have a 25% chance to get it, right? And it's $1 million proposal, then it's 250,000 probability adjusted. So start to play around with your funnel numbers, because when that funnel number is big, and to Liv's point, like if you have 40 leads and you assign probabilities to the dollar values of those things, then you can actually gain some confidence and say, I've got enough stuff in the funnel that even if 1 or 2 or 3 out of 10 close, I'm in decent shape. And if you need more, then to Liv's point, you start striking up new conversations, and keeping that process rolling. So use a probability adjusted funnel as a method for tracking the total opportunity that you believe can close, and use that as a vehicle, as a method of kind of gaining confidence in all of those conversations that Liv was talking about. Because sometimes, day to day, we lose track of all those things, and you're like, yeah, I think I got enough, but I'm not sure. And so a funnel and a simple Excel spreadsheet is a simple way of tracking this, or a CRM if you want to get a little bit more, kind of complicated. So do that as well.
So do you mean like what Liv was saying is, let's just say that I don't know, 40% of your leads turn into actual deals struck in Cambodia, but you would then look at all of your leads, and if you said, okay, well, I've got $1 million worth of leads, I need to work out 40% of that because there's only a 40% chance that I'm going to get them, and then I've got 400k left. Like that's what I'm confident I'll have.
And
exactly.
if you've got $1 million of leads and you expect to win 40% of them, and that's $400,000, and that's what you need, and you deliver that work over 6 months, and that's your 6 month budget, then don't focus on new business, focus on landing those leads. So I've got these 40 leads. I'm going to go back and have a coffee with them. I'm going to send them a newsletter. I'm going to point out an interesting article that matters to them, and I'm going to turn this lead into business. So don't just always get more leads. As soon as you capture it on a spreadsheet, like Keith is saying, and we do exactly that, who is it? Who is the exact person in the business I'm talking to? What are all the things that I or they think they need? If it's a specific project, we're narrowing down on what's the monetary value, what's the percentage likelihood that they're going to sign up, when is it most likely that it's going to start? And then we have a weekly conversation looking at that, and we decide, I've got to go out and get more new names on that sheet. No, I have to actually talk to these 10 people on this sheet and see where they're at and turn it into business. And we have a column on that pipeline spreadsheet that really helps us, and it's called the next step, because we all feel overwhelmed and paralyzed. So we make sure that the very next step is recorded there. Call Joe, write proposal, send article on. And then all I have to do when I'm feeling discouraged is I'm just going to do that next step. And I'm just going to actually pick the next steps I feel confident to do today. If I'm not up to a coffee face-to-face with that person because I'm just feeling bad about myself and my business today, I'm going to send out the articles. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. I'm going to do all the things that I can do, which are those next steps.
Yeah. No, this is really helpful. I think the thing that's frustrating me at the moment is that I'm writing so many grants, and some of them are so time consuming.
Yeah.
Such menial amounts of money. Like, they're not going to change my situation that much at all. And they require so many things and so much preparation for such a small amount of money. But, you know, that's all I have. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just go with it and I'll do it. But it's definitely been frustrating these last few weeks, how much time I've spent on grants that are like just not big enough to be worth. Well, maybe it is.
Yeah. Do you know why?
Yeah, like having 10 conversations is like.
Yeah. Why do you think your current horizon and the world you're swimming in is small grants? How do you swim in a different ocean to that? That's a really urgent question, and you want to make sure that a very small number of your leads are at that level, and when they are, the most junior person in your business should be doing them. And it takes time. When I arrived at TDI, the Australian business had been ignored for 2 years. And when I arrived, everyone will get excited if we won $5,000 of business. Now we get excited 18 months later when we win $500,000 of business. And anything under 50,000, people much more junior than me do all the work to land it.
Yeah, no, it's true. I need some bigger leads.
And use what is sexy about your business and being in Cambodia and being a woman. And I use that term sexy in the way that philanthropists use it. And it may well be that you've just got to look globally for a whole different funder group.
Yeah. I think in the next month we'll have like our strategy written up quite neatly on a sort of 1 or 2 pager, which will be really helpful for doing that, because then we'll be able to very clearly show people that don't know us who we are, what we're doing, what we want to do in the future.
Yeah. And this is probably something to talk to with everyone. For all of you that are relying on the do good side of the do good and make money world, and are constantly relying on funds and grants from foundations and trusts, how many of you been shown sort of the 18-month, 2-year courtship process where your theory of change, your mission and purpose, your core business model gets put together in a case for support, and then you have to build and cultivate relationships. You target a whole bunch of foundations and trusts that grant at certain times that you want to be in the grant for, and you actually build a 12 to 18 months relationship with them. You meet them 2 or 3 times, you send them information monthly, and then you send them a project plan, and then you actually submit that project for a grant. Because if you're just writing tenders cold, you are competing with people who are in a 12 to 18 month relationship with that fund or foundation. So it's not an even playing field, and it's not like a whole lot of grants just pop into the foundation or the trust's email, and they're all groups that they don't know. The most successful ones they know really well. So if you've never sort of been taken through how to court and cultivate relationships with funders. That might be something that we do the next one on, Keith, if it's of interest to people. I could lead that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be really helpful for me.
Yeah, great. One idea to have on that front, as an aside, maybe a final comment, and then we'll get Junaid to share as well, is that all these little small proposals you've been working on. So at Spring, first I agree with Liv, hopefully it's the least amount of effort and you can get a junior person to help out. But the other thing too is make sure that you're prioritizing them according to the long-term strategic value. Because sometimes there's an opportunity for 10K or some small amount of money. But when you do that 5K project or that 10K project, you know that it will lead to that next block of work that's 25K or 100K, etc. So, and other ones, you're doing a proposal for 5K or 10K, and that's all you're ever going to get out of them. And so it's just really important to be strategic about those proposals. Why are you submitting them? Is there an opportunity for follow-on work? If so, is it strategic? So just kind of walk through that process a little bit to make sure that you're aiming at the right things. So if that makes sense. Yeah. Cool.
Totally.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for that. Cool. I'm gonna hand it over to Junaid. Junaid, would love for you to come off of mute and share how things are going in your world.
Hi, Keith. How are you?
Good.
Good. Things are so still settling into Singapore. Actually, half the call I took while I was house hunting. But yeah, so as far as on the serendipity front, so there is something interesting we are trying to explore and to refresh. We are kind of stuck in a limbo with the funding and how things kind of slowed down a little bit in Sri Lanka. So what we're exploring is an opportunity of kind of partnering up with an entity. I think once things develop, I'll share more details about it when it's mature. But the idea is that, so it's more in the domain of social enterprise side of things. And the idea is to kind of get into a joint venture of sorts where we are helping them with the more localized Asia business development. And we are kind of leveraging their network of donors and people who they have access to, and essentially try to explore if we can, and it's also like venturing out for them as well into more of a commercially focused for-profit kind of a startup space. So that is something we're trying to explore and hope that we can find some kind of a win-win where it's a both way, the existing products that they have, we can help them leverage the local market. And on the flip side, the grant and the donor side access that they have from before, we can perhaps see if we can position Serendipity jointly with them for that. And the bit of the in this case, the focus will not just remain on Sri Lanka anymore, which we're already exploring just because of the turn of events. So it will be more of a regional focus, maybe with Singapore being at the center of it, or however, it seems viable to do. So yeah, that's the little update.
Cool. Does this potential partnership, do you think it ultimately helps you achieve your goals?
Yes. So, I mean, between amongst us, I mean, I can share a little bit of the, I think, some of the positives and some of the negatives, or some of the one can say fears one might have. The cons that I can imagine are that maybe the clash of some of the existing values. I mean, if you're coming from more of a social impact space, hardcore, and if you are trying to get into a space which is designed to be more for profit, across that spectrum, if we can find that overlap interest area. So that I think that is the key to answer your question, right? If the alignment works out, then we can achieve the objective. But if there is lack of alignment there, and there is both sides are not able to find that space of intersection, and that's hence we will be exploring it as a pilot of sorts to see if something can work out with that or not, before going full throttle with that. Because at this point it seems like it's one option that might just click, just because the dynamics seem like there is a lot of synergy that can come out.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. So in terms of this process and the conversations that you're having, any burning issues, any asks that you have of the group?
I mean, it's something which is like we've had like 2 or 3 conversations over it. So I wouldn't say particularly anything per se. I mean, it's mature. However, as I just shared, one of the fears I would have is that the whole notion of playing to the audience, right? That you have some. I mean, given there always is that fatigue that sets in after a certain time, and that's when you make worse decisions at times, right? That you are like, okay, now it's been this much time, and if it's either this, nothing else will happen afterwards, and you sometimes don't necessarily make the right decisions. So my only fear at this time would be, and I don't know how it can be assessed, that I would like to be able to objectively assess how much of that overlap is actually happening. And it's a very subjective kind of it's something which is, the process is subjective, but the output you want is very objective, right? So that's a challenge. Because I strongly feel that social impact enterprises have a certain way of going about, and we have impact in our, I would say in our essence, we would like to have that impact orientation, but in terms of how we operate, I think we need to be more aligned towards more of a for-profit mindset. So it's a kind of a thin line we're trying to walk, and I just fear not being on too much on the other side. So that's the only thing. And I think the bit of a backdrop to that, I think, fear is that you kind of start operating in a different way if you are working with excessively with a certain type of donors and stuff. Then you are kind of, I mean, your KPIs are more aligned to what they would be wanting, but the way we want to go about serendipity is that it should be a business viable incubator, and startups need to be business viable first and have an impact orientation. So that's kind of the founder's dilemma sort of we are in.
Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting.
And I would give this much of a kind of disclaimer that both setups have their own merits. So it's in no way of saying that one is a better setup than the other. But the worst part is to not be in either of the two camps, right? So that's where a lot of dilemmas come in, where you think you are either on this side, but you really are operating like the other side. So that way you are kind of neither here nor there. So that's ultimately the something to be aware of for us.
Yeah, and you're almost in a situation where there's a part of what you're doing which is very piloty, especially with this potential joint venture. You're still seeking product market fit, and you're doing it in a way where you're exploring different geographic elements. I think part of the place that you're in kind of requires you to you know, almost build a business case for each of those options, lay out the analysis, lay out the kind of suggested course of action, and get some feedback from a couple of different people. Like really lay it out well as like a formal case, because I think that will help you guys to get it out of your heads, get it out of the sort of the thought process and into more of the action process, and have that confidence in the path that you're going down, which I think would be like really beneficial. And the other thing too, of course, is if you share that and you get some feedback from people, you also have an opportunity for people to then sign up for help, whether it's in supporting introductions or in offering some really sage advice, etc. So that's definitely the first thought that comes to my mind. And maybe Liv, you might have something in addition to share there.
Yeah, look, Junaid, if I understand what you're saying and your fear at this point, I think you're grappling with a thing that never goes away in the social enterprise world, which is it has a very broad umbrella. Lots of people use the term and social impact and all of that. And there are two main flavors in the world. The kind of social enterprise flavor that comes out of America is about making money first and also doing good. And the British model is much more do good and actually doesn't believe that if you're really doing good, you can make money. And so the fear is that you can spend a lot of time with people and them not be in the same kind of philosophy that you're in. So we push it quite hard at TDI because we will say things like, we do not compromise on the financial returns, and we push equally hard for genuine transformative social impact. And our tagline deliberately is do good, make money. And if we're working with people who can't cope with the make money statement, that's an early flag for us. So I just encourage you to think carefully about what constitutes culture. Sometimes it's values and mission and vision, and you can go to partners' websites and you can figure out who they are, but it's how we do things around here. So it is asking them, you know, what are your financial KPIs? What's the value of money to you in your ecosystem? And if they're not comfortable talking about money, they're usually very much on the do good side only, and they might have a not-for-profit background. There's a whole lot of things that you can do and stories you can tell about yourself that will often cause people who are just on one side or the other to make a comment that really shows their preference. And as you say, it's not a right or wrong thing, but you want to be on the business side. You want to lean more. If you're going to lean on one side, I heard you say that it's about the making money and being profitable. And so you do need to be sending those clear indicators, and you do need to be sounding people out on their level of comfort in talking about money and their level of proficiency in understanding business models and commerce and knowing how to make money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I agree with that. And just to that end, at the end there, Liv, you were talking about this idea of like sharing stories that help to reinforce which side you're on. And I think if you pick that side, Junaid, Stephanie Aerosmith posted a guide and a tool for storytelling for impact. And I actually think it would be a fantastic resource for you to actually develop those stories that Liv is talking about, that helps to create some of that segmentation. And frankly, also at this relatively early stages in organization, it really helps you guys to test your own thinking on that focus. You know, we at Spring in Vancouver, we really love to focus on for-profit impact, but people who want to scale. So we're like almost leaning towards venture scale for profit impact in Vancouver. Part of that is a byproduct of the ecosystem here. But when we first started, we needed to test that language, not only in the marketplace and kind of signal to people what we were doing, but we also needed it for our own sake, right? Because sometimes you have amazing people doing wonderful work and you want to help them. And so it's really easy to say yes to everything and then get distracted and defocus. So So I do think that building those stories that Liv is talking about is really a great opportunity for you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Liv, and thank you, Keith. Yeah, so that's definitely a good way of, and it's always a challenge, right? So the subjective part of things, how do you distill it out of other parts of conversation? So this is, I think, definitely one of the things we can kind of take up in our next conversations. That how much of really when the other side talks about them wanting to get into this space, which is like, you know, a little bit of deviation for them, on that spectrum, where does that desire level lie, essentially? That how much of it is you know, a long-term commitment to that idea, or how much of it is just you know, a bit of a tangent to what they're already doing. So so that would be one way.
Yeah, and Junaid, so we use tools to help draw that out. So we use the business model canvas, and at the bottom of it is, you know, revenue and cost. And when we're talking about ideas and people are exploring and they're excited and they're talking about social transformation, we say, yeah, and what kind of salary will you pay yourself out of this business, and who are your customers as opposed to your beneficiaries and your end users? And we just normalize that in this social enterprise that is going to do this amazing good that they're so excited about. We just start asking the money questions. And if we're with someone that all they're talking about is the money side, this is a great idea, I'm going to make a packet, blah, 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 then that's when we start to ask all the impact questions. And in the end, they don't choose us. If the questions we're asking don't lead them further into something that really excites them, they won't choose us, and we wouldn't have chosen them.
Right. Yeah.
So as soon as someone starts sharing their dream with you, 5 or 10 minutes in, you can really say, no, can I ask you a couple of questions, and just go straight to the money questions. I love the impact. I love what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Tell me about the business model around this. Who are the customers that will make this possible for the beneficiaries? You know, what kind of costs and pricing and products are you talking about here? What kind of revenue flows are you looking at? And, you know, of course they haven't got it all worked out yet, but if they really haven't thought about it making money, they'll be absolutely flummoxed at that point. And then really what they're talking about is a not-for-profit or a charity, and they're just dressing it up in social enterprise language.
Yeah, you want to get clarity on that.
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It just might not be the partner that you're looking for.
Right.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity to go through an exercise with them to really seek what is that definition and get that clarity. So live well shared. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Liv. And Keith.
Of course. No, I think that was great. And thank you for sharing, Junaid. You know, great sharing, everybody, on this call. Liv, you know, appreciate the offer on cultivating relationships with donors, funders, and strategic partners. I think that would be a great topic for next seminar. I think what we'll do is we'll put that out to the group, and then we can use that as kind of the catalyst for the next session.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and team, you know, I did note down some of the action items that we talked about. And so, Zareen, if you post up in Slack that ask around waste management, and I will definitely action that. Liv, if you have the ability to share your budget, and even if you want to share your funnel for feedback on how you structured, I'm also happy to share ours as a template, just to give you a little bit more confidence in what's in there and empower you to kind of really feel like you're driving the right people. So Olivia, I think that would be awesome. And then, and yeah, Junaid, I think if you do go through that process of getting clarity on where, like, what is that definition of social enterprise for them, and see if you guys can get to some congruence on that, I think those are good action items to take away from this session. Just a quick note for you guys, the session was recorded, so we'll post it up for everybody to access. And please do reach out anytime if there's some specific needs, and I think especially where you guys are at right now in terms of some of the things that you're actioning and doing, like definitely reach out. And then what we'll do is we'll give confirmation for the next seminar date, and we'll go from there. So any final questions before we break? All right.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Great. You
Good
guys
luck,
have a great day.
everyone.
Okay.
Keep going.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.